A quiet day at the park, a little girl spots a stranger in a car, and her single dad's world begins to unravel. But this woman isn't just anyone. She's the ghost of a past he buried, and the mother his daughter never knew she had. What happens when the truth crashes back into their lives? Stay with us, because the choice they make next will change everything. Before we dive in, comment below where you're watching from and tell us this. Do you believe everyone deserves a second chance? Let's hear your thoughts. The golden hues of autumn bathed the park in a warm, fading light as Ethan sat on an old wooden bench, tying his 5-year-old daughter's shoelaces with the same careful hands that had once built homes and fixed roofs. His name was Ethan Cole, 32, single father, working double shifts in construction just to make ends meet. Across from him, little Lily licked the last of her ice cream cone, her pink jacket dusted with cookie crumbs, her wide brown eyes filled with innocent joy. To the world, they looked like any other father and daughter enjoying a quiet afternoon. But behind Ethan's tired smile were layers of bills unpaid, lunches skipped, and nights spent staring at the ceiling, wondering how long he could keep pretending everything was fine. Earlier that morning, Ethan had rushed through the chaos of their tiny apartment. The leaky faucet, the broken heater, the rent notice slipped under the door. He'd packed Lily's lunch with leftover spaghetti, buttoned her coat with one hand while sipping cold coffee with the other, and forced a smile as they left for school and work like everything was okay. But now, here in the park, for a moment, life was still. Lily hopped off the bench and ran toward the swings, her laugh echoing across the empty lawn. Ethan leaned back, rubbing his aching hands and stealing a glance at his phone. A new message flashed across the screen. Another declined payment. He sighed, the weight in his chest pressing down like it always did. He looked up to check on Lily just in time to see her freeze mid-step, her eyes locked on something across the street. She turned and pointed, her voice soft but certain. "Daddy, is that the woman from your photo?" Ethan blinked, confused. "What?" Lily pointed again, her tiny finger trembling slightly. Across the street, a sleek black car sat parked beneath the trees, the engine still running. Behind the wheel sat a woman, elegant, composed, wearing a sharp blue blazer and diamond earrings that sparkled even in the fading light. Her gaze wasn't on the road, it was locked on them. Ethan stood slowly, his breath caught somewhere between disbelief and dread. For a split second, time slowed. That face, the high cheekbones, the green eyes, the same soft curve in her lips. It was unmistakable. His heart pounded. He hadn't seen her in nearly 6 years. "She looks beautiful," Lily whispered. Ethan gently grabbed her hand. "Come on, sweetheart. We have to go." His voice shook more than he intended. "But why?" Lily asked, glancing back at the woman in the car. Ethan didn't answer. He pulled her close and walked away fast, not daring to look back. But behind them, the woman never moved. She just sat in the car, watching them disappear into the distance, her eyes glistening with something between sorrow and recognition. That night, after Lily had fallen asleep curled against his side, Ethan sat in silence at the edge of the bed, staring at the photo tucked inside his wallet. Worn, creased, but untouched all these years. It was her, Amelia, the only woman he ever truly loved. The same woman who vanished from his life without a word, leaving behind nothing but that fading photograph and a wound that never quite healed. He ran a thumb over her smiling face in the picture, taken on a summer afternoon so many years ago, when they were just two young dreamers who thought love could conquer anything. He remembered the way she laughed, the way she believed in him when he barely believed in himself, and the way everything came crashing down the night she disappeared. Ethan had been working late shifts back then, scraping together enough to rent a one-bedroom apartment in the city. Amelia had just finished school, full of ambition and light. They used to talk about building a life together, a real home, kids, maybe even a little art studio for her. But then one evening, she never came home. No goodbye, no note, just silence. He filed missing persons reports, called hospitals, reached out to her friends. But no one knew anything. Some said she ran away. Others said her wealthy family had pulled her out, angry about who she was dating, a mechanic's son with grease on his hands and no pedigree. Ethan refused to believe she'd leave him willingly. For weeks, he waited. For months, he hoped. But eventually, life forced him to move on. Especially when he realized Amelia hadn't just left him. She'd left while carrying Lily. He never stopped wondering what had happened. And now, 6 years later, there she was, alive, beautiful, and sitting in a luxury car, staring at him like a ghost from a life he tried so hard to bury. The shock from earlier in the park still hadn't worn off. His mind raced with questions. Why now? Why return? Had she come for Lily? Did she even know Lily existed? Ethan clenched his jaw, torn between fury and heartbreak. He wasn't the same man she left behind. He had raised their daughter alone, fought every battle with blood and grit. And now, just when things had begun to settle into a fragile routine, fate had reopened the wound he spent years trying to close. He glanced back at Lily, sound asleep, with her stuffed bunny tucked under her chin, unaware that the mother she'd never met had returned, not in dreams or bedtime stories, but in real life. And Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The next morning, Ethan couldn't ignore the weight on his chest. He hadn't slept much. The image of Amelia behind the wheel, staring with those familiar eyes, kept replaying in his head like a scene stuck on repeat. After dropping Lily at school, he made a decision he hadn't dared to consider in years. He was going to find her. He had seen the car's license plate, memorized it without even trying. A few calls to old friends in the auto business, and by midday, he had an address. That afternoon, with hands slightly trembling and heart pounding, Ethan stood outside a glass-walled office building downtown. It was modern, cold, and towering, so different from the warm chaos of their old life. He took the elevator to the 10th floor, stepped into the front reception, and before the assistant could stop him, Amelia stepped out of her office and froze. Their eyes locked, time bent in half. For a moment, the world outside that hallway didn't exist. Ethan didn't shout. He didn't demand answers. He just spoke, low and sharp. "Why?" he asked. Amelia's face paled. She led him into the office, closed the door, and stood quietly for a long second before finally whispering, "I didn't leave because I wanted to. I was forced to." Ethan stared at her, every muscle tight. She looked down, voice trembling as she continued. "My father found out I was pregnant. He said I had a choice. Get on the plane to London that night, or be cut off entirely. No money, no school, no support. He even threatened to ruin your life, Ethan. Said he'd have you fired, blacklisted. I was 18, terrified. I thought I'd come back in a week, once things calmed down." "But you never came back," Ethan snapped, his voice finally rising. She nodded, tears forming. "I wasn't allowed. He took my passport, changed my number, sent me to live with my aunt far from everything. By the time I escaped that world, years had passed. And when I finally came back, I saw you with a little girl in the park. I thought you had moved on. I didn't know she was ours." Ethan stepped back, stunned. "You saw her and still walked away?" "I was scared," she said softly, ashamed. "What kind of mother just disappears? I thought you'd hate me. That maybe Lily was better off not knowing." At that moment, the office door creaked open. Lily had arrived with a school staff member. Ethan had forgotten about early dismissal that day. Her eyes darted between the two adults. Her father's tense jaw. The woman with tears on her cheeks. "Daddy?" she asked, voice small. "What's going on?" Ethan turned slowly. He knelt in front of her. "Sweetheart, this is Amelia." Lily tilted her head. "The woman from your photo?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Lily looked up at Amelia, curious and cautious. "You're my mom." Amelia dropped to her knees, tears spilling freely now. "Yes, baby, I am." Silence settled in the room like a fragile snowflake. Then Lily asked, almost in a whisper, "Why weren't you there when I had my first day of school?" Ethan closed his eyes. Amelia swallowed hard, voice cracking. "Because I made the biggest mistake of my life. And I'm so sorry." Lily didn't move, didn't cry. She just looked between them both. Two broken hearts trying to piece together something long lost. And with that look, Ethan knew the road ahead wouldn't be simple. But it had finally begun. The days that followed were like walking on cracked glass. Every step careful, every word weighed. Amelia asked gently if she could spend time with Lily, and though Ethan hesitated, he saw the longing in his daughter's eyes. So he agreed, with conditions. Their first meeting was in a quiet park, the same one where Lily had first pointed her out. Amelia brought a sketchbook, the same brand Lily used. "I hear you like to draw," she said, trying to smile through the nervousness in her voice. Lily nodded shyly and sat beside her, crayons between them like a fragile bridge. They talked in fragments about dogs, school lunches, Lily's favorite book. Amelia listened like someone catching rain after a drought. She didn't push. She didn't cry. She just listened. Slowly, Lily started to open up. "You have the same laugh as me," she said once, almost like an accidental confession. Amelia smiled. "That's the best thing anyone's ever told me." But things were harder between Amelia and Ethan. Conversations that used to be full of love now hung heavy with pain. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, they sat in silence on the front steps of Ethan's small apartment. The city hummed in the distance, but between them, it was quiet. "You miss birthdays." First words. "Her first time on a bike," Ethan said, voice rough. Amelia nodded. "And I'll never get those back. But I want to be here now. Not to take her from you, just to be part of her world." He looked at her, years of struggle flashing through his mind. "You don't get to walk back in and pretend none of it happened." "I'm not pretending," she said softly. "I'm here to face it." Then came the moment Ethan hadn't expected. Amelia pulled out a worn envelope, yellowed at the corners. "I wrote this the day I left. I begged my aunt to mail it. She never did." He opened it with hesitant fingers. Inside was a letter, one he should have read 15 years ago. Words of love, sorrow, fear, and hope. A line near the end said, "If there's any justice in this world, one day this letter will find you. And if it does, Please tell our child I loved her before I ever saw her." Ethan's hands trembled. The letter didn't erase the pain, but it explained the silence, the distance, the aching years. She didn't just leave, he realized out loud. She was taken. Amelia nodded, tears running down her cheeks. Inside the apartment, Lily peeked out the window, watching her parents in the glow of the porch light. Something told her this was the beginning of something new. Not a fairy tale. Not yet. But maybe, just maybe, a family. The morning sun broke through the curtains like a quiet invitation to begin again. Inside Ethan's apartment, the air was heavy with something unspoken. Amelia stood near the doorway, her coat folded over her arm, unsure whether she belonged or was simply passing through once more. Lily sat at the table, her cereal untouched, watching the adults with the wide, wondering eyes of a child caught in grown-up storms. Ethan paced slowly, the letter still sitting on the counter, opened and worn from being read over and over again through the night. Everything he thought he knew had been challenged. The story he'd lived with for years, that she walked away without a word, had shattered. But broken pieces don't put themselves back together. Someone has to choose to rebuild. Amelia spoke softly, like her words might break if she raised her voice. "I don't expect you to forget, Ethan, or even to trust me yet. I just want a chance to be what I should have been all along. Her mother." He looked at her, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "You don't get to walk in and fix everything." "I know," she whispered, "but I'm still here." The silence was interrupted by a small voice. Lily stood now, a crayon in her hand, a drawing clutched to her chest. "Can you stay for pancakes?" she asked, looking at Amelia, not with judgment, but with hope. It was the kind of question that didn't come with conditions or baggage, just possibility. Ethan looked from Lily to Amelia. He saw his daughter's heart opening and realized his had started to crack open too, slowly, painfully, but it was happening. He nodded. "Stay." Amelia smiled through tears, stepping in as Ethan moved aside. The three of them sat around the table. Not fixed, not whole, but together. Later that day, they walked to the same park where it all began. Lily skipped ahead, her laughter echoing through the trees. Amelia and Ethan walked behind her, not hand in hand, not yet, but shoulder to shoulder. A family, perhaps not by perfect design, but by brave choices. And as they reached the old bench where Lily had first pointed out the woman in the car, she turned back and asked, "Do you think everything happens for a reason?" Ethan glanced at Amelia. "Maybe not for a reason," he said, "but sometimes for a second chance." The camera would fade out here, on a daughter who brought two broken hearts back to the same road, and on two people learning that forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing love, even after everything, because sometimes that's the only way forward.